Welcome to Momentum Monday. Today is April 12th, 2020. Happy Easter, happy Passover, and happy whatever else.
There's not much else, man. What do you think?
Yeah.
It's my new logo.
Interesting. How are we?
So take us through the markets.
Let me share my screen. So last week, the S&P 500 and many other stocks had their best week in probably 30, 50, 30, 40 years. So it was a big jump, that big gap last Monday, and then it followed through. And at this point, the large cap indices, the S&P and the Nasdaq 100, are kind of close to potential technical resistance. For example, the S&P 500, that area between 280 to 290, it's a big area of potential technical resistance. The Nasdaq 100 is it's good to see it back above its flat 200-day moving average, and definitely is the index that continues to show notable relative strength. But as it's approaching its declining 50-day moving average, I would assume that first test will be a decent shorting opportunity, at least for just a slight dip.
Yeah, you can see the relative strength too. It's like Nasdaq hasn't rallied like the beaten up stocks.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to them. And as we saw with SMH, which is the semiconductor index, it was the first one to bottom on March 18th, right here, about 5 to 6 days before the other indices. And now it's the first one to test its declining 50-day moving average. And as you saw, it was met with some form of resistance on Thursday. So I would think that we will see something similar in the rest of the indices. That doesn't mean that rally is necessarily over, but we might just see a slight pullback and a higher low, and it just depends on other factors. As of right now, definitely small caps are currently leading the market kind of because they were hit the worst, and typically during relief rallies or during the initial stages of a market recovery, the stocks that were hit the worst outperform in that initial stage. And we saw that last week. Basically on Thursday, the Federal Reserve announced that they're backstopping the entire credit market. They're buying everything, including corporate bonds and junk bonds. And naturally, we saw the whole financial sector outperforming. And as we know, many banks are especially regional banks are small caps. So definitely they gave a big boost to the Russell 2000, and it will be interesting to see what will happen with oil if the negotiations between Saudi Arabia, Russia, Mexico, and the rest will lead to some form of cut in oil output. And if energy also manages to bounce, I mean, already did in expectations of those negotiations coming through. The small caps, I think they have a little bit more room. I would say the potential resistance for Russell 2000 is around 128 to 130. And let's take a look at the longer term. Yeah, about that area here, I would say it's a potential resistance for Russell 2000, but they might shine for a week or so more to get there.
Yeah, I don't know, it feels like no man's land. It was I think a couple of weeks ago and last week we talked about venture capital, stocks as venture capital. We talked about Starbucks, it bounced huge. Don't chase it here, but in the 50s, I loved it. Today it's in the 70s, mid 70s. Same with Lulu, 130, now over 200. I mean, I just don't know how, with a straight face, with the stores closed, you can open a position on these. Well, at least I won't. So I think for my strategy, I'm just looking for, I think what we learned, Ivan, is that digital cloud and code and digital stocks did the best. So, companies like Okta, where security meets a single sign-on. I mean, it looks like you wouldn't know that there was a pandemic. DocuSign, wouldn't know anything. Zoom. And I'd say even Microsoft, because of, they're so distributed now in the cloud with Azure and Amazon. So you can see, I think, in the next wave down, what the leaders, where the money's hiding out. And then obviously on the real estate side, it's pretty interesting. 5G and REITs that have data centers got sold off really fast.
Yeah.
And I created a list here on Koyfin. So there's American Tower. You can see how, it got sold off 30% and is back at all-time highs, actually. So you can see that the pandemic had nothing to do with cellular towers, SBAC, which is 5G, all-time highs. So CORS, I think it's CORS, Ivan. I'm just looking through a list of stocks that...
You sure? COR?
No, COR and Cone. COR and Cone.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also DRS.
So you can see so you should build a list. Yeah. So you can see they're basically, anything digital and anything real estate that happened to be. It's only going to create more of a bubble the next time around, but you can see the internet obviously is undefeated and continues to shine even during COVID, and the network gets stronger. So, I don't know what you can do. And obviously there's just going to be, if you look at some of those, like an American Tower, you can see where the asset inflation is going to come post. Everybody's going to be investing in more infrastructure for the next 10 years, for the next pandemic, over the next 10 to 20 years. So you can see where the stocks at the dips are going to get bought. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. These aren't sexy businesses per se, but they're just obviously, ones that you can buy on the dips. And so the last big dip in that company was 08.
Yeah, 50%, yes.
Yeah, and if we go back to the daily, this was a big one, right? If you follow the stock and understand the trend, as the cooler heads prevailed pretty quickly. I wouldn't have predicted it goes back to all-time high, but now you have data for the next kind of scare of, you can just see it's the cloud companies. So this week I'm just kind of in watch mode. I'm not adding anything. I can't see why I would add anything. But certain companies are underperforming. Those in ads, Facebook and Google, they underperform right now because of the ad business. Like Facebook's just been kind of a terrible underperformer. Google's underperformed. It's travel, because of the travel and competition from Amazon on search. You can see Amazon is really, taking away some of their search as well as their search business grows. So you can kind of see who the weaklings are in this. Booking is travel. I'm trying to think what else, Ivan, that stood out for you.
But right now, biotech stands out. But from a sentiment perspective, what makes an impression right now is that on Thursday, right before the long weekend, I received quite a few emails and messages from people asking me about if this is a V-shaped recovery. And there was a lot more FOMO, fear of missing out, than fear of losing as of late. And if this really is a bear market, I think it is one, but you can never be 100% sure, then this is the worst possible time to be chasing after a 20-25% rally from the bottom.
Yeah.
But of course, with those unprecedented measures from the Federal Reserve, it's really hard to be 100% certain in anything. And this is why I think that this continues to be a market for nimble traders. There are amazing opportunities on a daily basis, but you need to remain nimble and don't become too bullish or too bearish. But yes, go ahead.
The VIX was 90. I mean, it was unprecedented. So we could have months and months of upward bias with many stocks hitting all-time highs, with the VIX trading in a 20 to 40 range for months and months. I don't know what will tip it back over if it's a bear market. Obviously, it would be something to do with confidence and demand and spending. But the odds are major spending shifts are underway. And I'm going to play it much more conservatively. But I do understand that certain assets are going to get inflated like crazy. It could be the financial stocks, could be the certain sectors of the real estate. It'll definitely be, like you said, biotech. If we look at
definitely gold and gold miners, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't interest me because I have no cash flow. It's just a bizarre industry. But if we look at the biotech stocks, you can see Regeneron, REGN.
No.
I mean, how do you not, if you're a biotech fan, how do you not have that on your screen? What are the indexes doing, Ivan?
So this is IBB already back above its 50-day moving average.
But it either goes straight through to all-time highs or chops along sideways here for a while. And not sure because I just don't follow the industry that closely. But if risk is back on, that won't stop. That'll be the bottom and it goes, especially small cap biotechs. If risk comes back on again, and when healthcare and sciences comes into play, and there's just all kinds of news sentiment about cures and viruses, and this is going to be the next boom could be great for scientists and healthcare. So it's time to study some of the leaders. What other biotechs are leading? So there's Regeneron.
There's so many of them. They're kind of setting up.
Biogen, yeah.
Biogen. Which one? This one, I think. This one would be GIAI.
Novel artificial intelligence. Okay. Well, that was a nice breakout, and then it gave it all back. Yeah, that one's really interesting. What's the market cap? These things lose so much money.
500 million. It's a really low market cap, and this is why it moves so much. IMU is another one.
Well, it looked like death, and now it just doubled. Okay.
Yeah, gapped up near that 21, 22. It's a big level. I mean, it's.
What's the monthly look like on that one, Ivan? Interesting. That's really interesting. Okay. I mean, they all lose money, but that's interesting. So there must have been news.
Yeah, there was some major news here last week. I mean, don't know what exactly, but it gapped up on big volume, and now it's consolidating through time. I think if it clears 2050, it can go to 22, possibly 26, 28.
And then it's off to the races.
Yeah, and let me just take a quick look at what other biotechs. Let's see, 1 second. All right, so we talk about gold. Which one is this one? Let's say ZLAB.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so they do autoimmune and infectious. So there you go.
Yeah.
So you're not going to find leaders in the same place you found them the last.
Yeah, it's not a biotech, but it's in the healthcare system. Definitely acting stronger than the rest.
Mm-hmm.
PODD, another name in the space, back above its 50-day. Recent IPO, Libongo, gapped up last week.
I'm gonna create a Koifin list of all these, Ivan. If you could send me a list, I'll create a Koifin list for everybody.
Of all of the biotechs?
Yeah, some of the ones that are on your list.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. That looks phenomenal as well. What's the monthly on that one? I just think you're going to see a ton of money. Wow. That's a big breakout, Ivan. That one's got to be. So it's a $5 billion company, bleeding capital. So it's just so hard to understand, liquidity is so hard to understand on these, but it's obviously going to be a lot of acquisitions, going to be a lot of news. There's going to be a lot of hot money coming into this sector with the government printing money like this. So, there's some opportunity. Maybe you create a basket. So I'll put a list together on Koifin. I'll share it with people. Okay, I appreciate it, Ivan. Have a great weekend.
You too, Howard.